So for this week's video is going to be about this. So this is a HCM body from BittyDesign, and it is it's basically the next body that I'm going to be using for my MO7. Now I'm just going to put that aside to now. Very excited about this. My MO7 already has a Hyper M body, which is another BittyDesign shell. But in terms of why I will not be using that anymore and will instead be using that on it, I'll get the MO7 and go over why I will not be using the Hyper M body on that anymore. Okay, so this is my Hyper M, which I've currently got on my Tamiya MO7 chassis. Now, the problem with this being is that there are some clubs that do allow it, and there are some clubs that don't allow it, and that's because the Hyper M is more of an MTC body rather than for the M chassis, because the reason why some clubs and competitions don't allow it is because M chassis were not designed with this shape of body in mind, and if you look at the profiling of it, not only is it not only because of how low it is, but because of how much more streamlined the MTC body is, so that could provide an unfair advantage. So that's I don't know that for 100% definite, but that's just my guess as to why clubs and competitions don't allow MTC bodies like the Hyper M on M chassis because of the overall shape of it, because of the profile, and probably because of how much more streamlined. So those three things are my guess as to why they don't allow them. That's just, if anyone does actually know if that's actually the case or if that's because of another reason entirely, then let me know in the comments. But I will be getting another one of these if I do get an actual MTC chassis, because MTCs are four-wheel driven, whereas M chassis typically are two-wheel driven, either at the front like the MO7 or round the back, like on, for example, like the MO8. Now, in terms of why I will be getting a new Hyper M and why I will not be using this body again, is because I just want to take it off and just show you underneath it. Yeah, you can kind of see how badly the paint has come off. At the time, I didn't use the correct paint. I just basically had what was kicking about, and that's come off even with clear coat. And what's weird is that the acrylic paint, which I created the splats with, that stayed on perfectly fine. So this is going to be going in the little keepsake box that I have of old radio controlled bodies and parts that I have retired. So that's going to be going away somewhere. Now, in order to adapt the HCM body, I am going to need to change the body poles onto it. So these might be a bit too short at the front. These definitely are too short. So I do have some body poles. I forgot to bring them out, but let's just do a quick transition. And there you have it. So we've got the new body poles on, which came with, there's the rest of the pieces there. I'm just going to have those on as spares. Now, I have also put on the stiffeners and the supports, but these were actually what originally came with the MO7, and they've been in my toolbox ever since the backup, just in case I do decide to shift to a higher body. So yeah, so very happy with that. So I'm going to put that aside for now because I've already pre-opened this so that I don't have to spin. So here we have the new body, and here we have, I'm not going to be using all of these, in fact I might, and there we have the decals. Now, these decals I'm not going to be using because I'm not trying to replicate how it originally looks in the catalogue photo, because I'm going to be using the same method I had for, where is it? Yeah, so this method of painting the body is exactly what I'm going to be using, but there might be a little change here and then. Yeah, so I'm going to not use these, so it makes the body more unique. And the thing I mentioned earlier about profiling, if you just compare the, so I've just got the Hyper M held up to the HTM, so I'm probably not doing it justice, but you can just make it out how much lower profile and how much more streamlined this one is in comparison to that. So these type of bodies are more suited for M chassis, and these ones are competition fine, they're club fine. As far as I'm aware, these are the only type of bodies that are outlawed at some clubs of competition when it comes to MTCs. So I'm going to put that aside. Now in terms of this, first thing I need to do is get it all cut out and ready before prepping it to get it painted. So I've got curved scissors here, I've got body reamer there. So gather the pieces together, transition time. So there we have it. So that is the body almost, well, it's cut out, but it's almost prepped for paint. It's just got one thing to do afterwards. But I just got to bring over the M07. Now, during the process, I did also trim the body poles off as well, because it just made it a lot easier to get the body level onto the chassis, to make sure that it was accurate and properly in place. I might need to widen. But overall, it is a very good fit. Now, for the front, I did have to take off the stiffener for the front body poles, but I just got to pray that I haven't just replaced these body poles for no reason whatsoever. Otherwise, because they would have just been no different in terms of the height in comparison to the ones I used for the Hyper M, so that would be very interesting. But now, the next plan of this is, get the spoiler aside and that aside, so the decals, not the decals, the window masks, right here, I'm going to be cutting those out. I'll just have to put the camera down because I'll have to open it with the scissors. So here are the window masks, and they are etched rather than one single piece of sticky back paper like on the Tamiya kits. I think the Hyper M was also like this as well, so that saves a lot of time cutting out the shapes. Right, so on that note, let's stop dawdling on. Window masks there. And transition time. Alrighty, so with that is ready for painting. So I've got the window masks on. Did kind of mess up a little bit on that window there, but everything else actually came out reasonably well. Yeah, so there's not really much I can go. So we've got the body ready, we've got the spoiler ready. I might have to do a bit of reaming on the holes here and here prior to painting, so that just in case if I do ream it with the paint on and it just starts flaking even with clear coat on. But other than that, so with the body ready, let's go over to what paints I'll be using. Now, these are the colours that I'm going to be using for the splats, which I've got red, I've got green. Now, I've got two shades of blue, the darker blue, and I'm only just going to be using a little hint of the sky blue, just to lighten this up, just to get a more of a royal blue colour. So once I've done that, I've got some plastic cups. It's all I've got that's basically lying around, and I've also got some well, I've only got one paintbrush, which should be good enough for the splats that I want to do. So once I've done the splats and those have dried, I'm going to be using this time some proper paints, unlike what I used on the Hyper M body, and that is a Core RC colour. Now, the reason why that's convenient because there's some up here. So I've got some Tamiya paints here. Now, as you can see, the Tamiya paints are 100 millilitres, whereas the Core RC paints are 150 millilitres. And even though the Core RC is a bit more pricey by a few pence, but when you do compare the cost per milliliter, Core RC, without a doubt, gives much better value, hence why I'm going to be using that. And then once I have sprayed it with the Core RC stuff, I'm going to be finishing it off with this. So this is clear coat, and it's like a clear lacquer, or I forget how the proper pronunciation with this type of lacquer or whatever. But I have used this for a few of my bodies, and it protects the paint very, very well. So very, very happy with this stuff. It is very, very good. So that's the paints, and time to get the body ready for painting. Alright, so I've got to pray that I've got the camcorder balanced, and that I gotta hope that I don't make a mess, because the original plan was to do this outside, but because of how windy it is, even though the garden is quite heavily shielded off from the wind, yeah, I've decided to take this into the garage. Well, this could be very interesting, and I've got to be mighty careful about the mess that I've made. So, I've decided to take the film off of the spoiler, and the reason for that being is when I tried this method on the Hyper M, where it was unprotected, you couldn't really see the splats from higher up, only from the back end at a low profile. So I've decided to strip that off and see where things go from there. Now, to start off with, I have mixed up some blue. It's quite a sort of a darkish royal blue, but I just imagine it might come out a bit lighter. Watered it down a little bit so it's much easier to splat and isn't so thick. So here comes the first one. Well, that's a good one. That's kind of more what I was after. Let's get a good... Nice. Not quite... Kind of aiming more so for more lines, but that seems to be going over the film. I'm not really like... That's what I'm after. I'm going to speed this up so it's not so much long of a watch. Okay, so I think that's about as good as I'm going to get with the blue, and I don't want to end up using any more. I think that's probably done. I just want to see how it looks when I flipped the body round. Okay, so yeah, yeah, that looks actually pretty decent. That's kind of more of what I was after. But yeah, less is more, as they sometimes say. So that's the blue done, so I'm going to shift over to, I think red is going to be next. Alright, so with the blue done, time to move on to the red. Now, I did end up using a bit more than anticipated, but I have got it in a smaller pot, which should make things a lot easier, because those cups were just too tall, and it was quite, because for some reason I had no issues with the blue, but for some reason the red was very difficult to get at the right thickness, in a way. So I'm going to do a few splats and see where this goes. A little bit chunkier, but not more splodges, and not quite what I'm after in something like this, but okay, so I might finish on the reds there. I'm just going to turn it upside down just to see what the outcome of that is. So actually, you know what, that's not too bad. I'll do a little bit on the spoiler just there, just see what comes off that, but we'll keep missing. It's just like, yeah, so this isn't quite, I think it may be a little bit too thick, this red, but it's been incredibly difficult to get right, so hang on. Alright, so I think I might leave it there for the red. Going to leave that dry for a tiny bit. Might see if there's a pot with a lid on that I can put the rest of this red in. Might water it down just a little bit. But then once I've done all that, I'll move on to the green. Alright, so last but definitely not least is the green, which was definitely a lot easier to mix with the water and get it well, not so much thinness, but more thickness. And it's quite runny in comparison to the red, because the red was actually quite solid, and I'll show you what I mean earlier on when I finish this. But the theme I'm trying to go on is like RGB pixels, so pixels that you find on TVs or screens in general, or pixel lighting in general. So the RGB theme is kind of what I wanted to get going. So we've got our green, and let's get a good splatter. There we go. Might try shifting over to that little spoon. Let's just see what. Okay, so on that note, I think that's done. So turn it upside down and see what I've come out of it. I just spat on it then, which is not great. Okay, yeah, so I'm happy with how this one has come out. There's kind of a bit more of what I was after there. Definitely there. Definitely there. Didn't quite get round the back a lot. But I think that's about as good as I'm going to get, given how small an environment I'm in and the fact that I'm trying not to get paint on everything that's surrounding it. But I think that's good. So, before I show off the final results of the splats, I just want to show off something pretty quickly. Now, in comparison to these paints here, which I have just used, so, for example, you can tell that it's quite liquidy, still in good condition, whereas the yellow, you can just about see how solid it has become in there, hence why it was very, very difficult to mix. So maybe I didn't screw the lid on properly, and maybe a bit of oxygen got in there, which made it go a bit more solid, in fact something else entirely pretty much. So yeah, that was incredibly difficult to decrease the thickness, whereas with the rest of the paints it's just been a doddle. So with that done, let's take a look at the body with the splats on. And this is the end result of splatting, and the camera in the camcorder is about to die, so I better wrap this up quick. So got the spoiler there, a little bit thick still in some places, and there's still a little bit thick inside the body, which is going to be very interesting. But the next plan of this is to put this in the airing cupboard, because it's quite warm in there, and the more heat that's in, the more heat I can get onto this thing, the better, because, you know, the heat tends to dry off quicker. Also, just noticed an interesting smudge there, which wasn't part of the plan, but yeah, but overall, very, very happy, because how I imagined it in my head, for once, has come out exactly how I would have liked to have had it. Now, with that being said, let's put this thing in the airing cupboard and cut to tomorrow. Alright, so it's been nearly a couple of days actually, and it's pretty much all dried off. Well, I haven't really properly... If I touch where it's, where the paint's a lot thicker in some places, that's actually... Yeah, so it's actually dried off pretty well, considering there are quite some thick layers of the stuff on there. But now that's done, time to take it outside for the spraying. Alright, so for spraying this, it's going to be quite a convenient method, hopefully, because I've got the body and the spoiler in a box, which basically means it's all shielded from the winds, but it also means that no additional paint is going to get on anything. So I've got the camera set up quite an interesting angle, so I just got to hope that it doesn't blow over in the wind. But also it does mean that it's shielded from the wind, which is also great. I don't know if I've already just said that, but anyway, so here is our Core RC colour, which is White Knight. Already used this stuff previously on a Ford Focus body, and it's really good stuff, but I did spray that out in the cold, so it didn't come out as good as it should have done. But now that it's a lot warmer, thankfully now we're in April, the weather is definitely a lot better, so just going to give this a good shake up just to be safe. Okay, I think that's enough, so here we go. I don't know how... I might have to pull the camera away just in case the paint does flow up. So let's just see what happens from here. So, no, hang on. Okay, you know what? It is starting to flow up. So I'm probably not going to film this segment because I don't want to risk any paint particles getting onto this camera, because I'll really need it for a lot of other things as well. But I shall probably have to cut to when I've applied the first layer on. Okay, so I've done the first layer and I've got some pretty good coverage on there. So happy with how the first layer turned out. So what I'm going to do next is just basically just continue spraying it until this stuff runs out, because A, the thicker the coat, the better and the more protected it will be, and the wind's starting to pick up. But also because I thought that if I go to use that paint for something else, chances are it's just going to run out when I do the first layer, and I'm not going to cover the whole thing with it. So yes, gonna give this a good spray down. Do several layers of it until it runs out before I put the clear coat on. So let's cut to when I've done that. Alright, so a few more coats later, and this is where I'm at so far. And it does feel like there is a tiny bit left in there, but I just can't get it out. I've tried shaking it, I have turned it upside down to release the gas. But it still feels like there is a little bit in there, but I just can't get it out. And no, the nozzle isn't clogged, but I think that's about as good as I'm going to get. A little bit faded on one side. I thought I covered that area, no, actually maybe this side, but I don't think it will be noticeable once it actually is finished and once the film comes off. So that's the painting done. The next step is to back this up with the lacquer, either one of the two, I forget. Now, so time to take this back outside and give it a good spray with that, of course. Also, just for the record, I did leave the paint to dry just for a couple of hours, but that has dried very quickly, given the time frame. So that's the whites added. So the next stage, I'm giving the lacquer a good shake. I don't think there is a ball in this one, so I've been shaking up for a couple of minutes now. You know what, let's give it a little spray. Here we go. Okay, the fumes are going up to the camera, so I'm going to hold it for that spray, and I'll cut to it when I have finished this process and have, completely coated it. Right, so it's been the day after I painted it, and yeah, very, very happy with the outcome so far. So, next thing is to take the protective film off, and to take the window mask off, but the protective film I've already taken off the spoiler, so that we don't have to worry about for now. I'm actually just going to put that upside down because it's still a bit soft on there. But anyway, protective film off and the window masks off, so here we go. And there we have it, all of the, there's the protective film on the residue. I'll just chuck that in there. One interesting thing that also did happen was a bit of the acrylic paint, which I splodged on the outside of the film, it's actually come off. Oh, there it goes. It's actually come off as quite a clean, and there's not even any stick or anything to it. But yeah, that's the. I think that's what we got the protective film off, window masks off, and already you can see how brilliant that body is looking, and will look even better when it's got this spoiler on. So if I just do that, actually, where's my, well, so I'll have to make the bolts appear in the transition. Alright, so with the spoiler on, there's one final thing left to do, and that is the decals. Now, thankfully, I did get a little feeler of them inside this pouch, and thankfully, just like they were with the Hyper M, let's see if I can actually get them out with one hand. Yes, I just did. Yeah, so the decals, probably not going to use all of them. So these ones here, details that are like on the catalogue, I'm probably not going to use them, but I'll just see where things go from there once I've got the important bits on. But they are etched, thankfully, because the Hyper M ones were etched, which was thankful, and these ones are etched also too, because I absolutely hate the fact that Tamiya ones aren't etched. But anyway, decals, here we go. So on that note, I think that's done. There are, as you can see, the pretty much the most major decals I've decided not to use. A, because I didn't feel it suited the scheme I went with, and B, I didn't really want them to cover up any of the details. So I think I'm going to leave it like that. Anyway, less tends to be more, as some people do say. But let's give a good pan around. And there. Now, I thought that there was actually going to be stickers for the grill, but as you can see, I think the grill was supposed to be painted black from the inside, but on the plus, I guess it does make it look as if it's supposed to be electric, in a sense. So, what we're going to do now is turn the lights off. Now, the reason why I have done this is because I want to capture my first time reaction with the body on the M07. So, when I turn the lights back on, this is the first time that I've seen it. So here we go. Yeah. That is absolutely fantastic. I think I've just might need to adjust the body pole slightly, but also I might need to increase it around the back. It is a little bit off around the back, I'll admit, probably because of the way I cut them out. And thing about this HCM is the fact that it has two different wheelbases. It's got well, okay, at the front it's not so bad, but at the back it's kind of a bit off, and the figure's also the same on the other side as well, so not quite right. But that's the difficulty of having two wheelbases, I found, is getting the accuracy. So it has either 210 or 225. I need to go for 225 because that's the wheelbase on this M07. But despite that, I'm overall happy with that. I'm just going to get the body clips on and hopefully get it a bit levelled up and see where things go from there. I forgot to do the finger snap transition just then, which I've been doing at the start of this video. Anyway, regardless, so there's the trimmings from the body poles. One's already off on a roll, but anyway, that is pretty much it. I am very, very happy with how this thing turns out. I'm not going to show a video of this driving it around because I feel like this video has been too long to watch. In fact, I'll just leave it there and wrap up the video. Yeah, so like I said, I'm not going to get a video of the M07 running with this new body on because this ended up being a lot of a longer watch than I anticipated, and I thought it would give traction over to a video with this running while it has the new body on. Now, as this video going out, Froome Radio Control Car Club have announced that they'll be back at the regular venue, which is the Froome Youth Hub, which has gone under a major overhaul since the spring, I think it was, of 2024, and they were at downside for quite a while. But on April the 11th, although it will be a lot after then by the time this goes out, yeah, so Froome will be returning. I will definitely be racing this there, but I will not be able to make it to the first night back because I am working late at my part-time job, which I'm a bit gutted about. But I will make it to the Easter special, or at least try to, because that's all day running from 10 AM to 6 PM, so maybe that could be next week's video. Now going back to this, the body positioning is a little bit off, but I don't want to really point it out in detail because I don't really want people to notice, and hopefully people don't. In fact, could I do with a little bit? Could it do with being a little bit lower than that? I don't know. But anyway, despite the body positioning being a little bit off, I'm still very, very happy with how this came out. And I think of all the bodies, I think I've only done about 4 or 5 with this painting method. This has definitely been my best one, and I'm very happy with the outcome because how I envision this method, this is pretty much exactly how I intend it to look. With that being said, thank you so much for watching this video. Hopefully next week will be my return to Froome Radio Control Car Club, because I haven't raced there since September after they left, after their contract with Downside ended. But a bit gutted about not making it to the first night back at the Froome Youth Hub. But the Easter special is going to be a whole lot of fun. So on that note, thank you so much for watching, and see you next week.